Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. My name is Joy Elizabeth and I come on here and I share with you my embroidery journey as I run a small embroidery business from my home. So many of you have probably seen these Chenille sweatshirts going around. They're super popular right now, super viral, and if you've been following my journey for a while, you know that I've already got 2 videos out with attempts at doing this trend. I wouldn't say they were failed attempts, but it was definitely a little bit of a struggle. So I think that I have finally got it perfected. Well, I won't say perfected, but I finally got the hang of it. So I'm going to walk you through my process today from start to finish of how I'm going to accomplish these sweatshirts. And I am going to be using the chunky, the biggest yarn, because quite honestly, if you watched the second attempt that I did, I was struggling to find a yarn at the right thickness that I liked to be able to do a longer word that wouldn't look smushed. And you seen I took a thinner yarn and I wound it together. And I really didn't even like the way that one came out, but it was just a way that I needed to get this order out. I saw the teacher wearing that sweatshirt one day when I went to pick up my kids. So she was clearly very happy with it. I think sometimes we're harder on ourselves. I do think she probably would have preferred something more like this, but it was definitely a longer word. And at the time, I was trying to use my 13-inch wide mighty hoop. So that is one of the things that I have switched out. I've just decided that to be able to get the word long enough, sorry, my dog's in here shaking and scratching. What you doing? Go lay down. So if you hear that. But anyways, to be able to get the word big enough and long enough to be able to read, I needed to upgrade the size hoops that I was using. So these are the original hoops. This one came with my 1201 embroidery machine, which I still have and use. And this one came with the new mirror machine. So if you have a by embroidery machine, you have one of these hoops. Whether you have the older version or the newer version machine, you have either a green or a gray hoop. And I have been using both of these hoops and they have been working. They're probably not my favorite thing to use. I obviously am gonna prefer to use a mighty hoop, but at this time I'm not ready to invest in a mighty hoop that would be wide enough. I believe I seen one, oh goodness, I should have looked this up before I started recording to remind myself what size. I think it was the one that's 16 inches wide by 10 inches tall. I will put it on the screen here, exactly the size that I kind of have my eye on that I think would work very well for these sweatshirts. I am, even though this goes much wider than 15 inches, I am trying to keep my designs no wider than 15 inches in mind that hopefully one day I will be able to upgrade and get that mighty hoop. If this trend continues enough that it's gonna be something that I would need. I've never needed a hoop that wide other than this. So I'm kind of treading carefully to see, like, okay, am I ready? You know, is this trend here to stay for a while? Is this something that's gonna be fast lived? Are we gonna be onto something else next year? So I'm kind of waiting to see. For now, I've figured out how to make these work for me, and I'm very happy that I finally figured out something that works, that's going to allow me to make the word big enough that it'll still be legible using this chunky yarn. Now, if you're near a Michael's, definitely check out Michael's and see what they have for yarn. I'm not. The closest Michael's to me is going to be over an hour away. So I have Hobby Lobby or Walmart. So I've been getting this yarn at Hobby Lobby. They do have one that is slightly, my other dog is ready to come in. Hold on a minute. One that is slightly thinner than this, I noticed, but the colors are very limited too. I could have gotten this green in a yarn that was slightly thinner, but I decided, you know what, I'm doing all of them in this size yarn, so let's just stick with this. This is working for me right now. I got this one for a yellow long sleeve shirt that is on its way. I've had to put out an order for some blanks, so that one's on its way. So I'm going to just go ahead and use the green on the yellow shirt, the same as before. Listen, if you hear my dog barking, I called her name a bunch of times before I started recording, and she just didn't want to come in, so she's going to have to wait a minute. Okay, so the only other thing though, even using these big hoops and this chunky yarn, I really can't get a word above, what is this Gators? 1, 2, 3, 6 letters. Anything above 6 letters, I'll put that down for a minute, is gonna look a little bit smushed. So I did have a client or a customer approach me, and I've done some things for her in the past. And as you can see, these are normally bears, gators, dogs. That's like my region. That's usually what I stick with. But I do have a customer who's from a couple counties over, and or I don't know, I usually mail my stuff out to her. I've done a couple things for her, and I think her son's on a traveling team. Anyways, because I've done a couple other names for her, but this year it's the Phantoms. So that is a longer word. I did go ahead and made a design with the Phantoms, but if I were to just show the client this, it looks, I mean, I'm obviously every letter is a different color because I want it to be so it'll stitch out separately on my machine. But if I were to show her a mock-up of this stitching, that's not really gonna show her what it's gonna look like finished. So I don't know, maybe you figured out another way, or maybe you just tell them it's not gonna work. I did tell her that there was a strong possibility that it was gonna look smushed, and I was gonna try and see what I could do for her. I even cut off the S instead of Phantoms, because as you see, I got bears, gators, and dogs, so I have the S on the end. I even cut off the S on the end, it just says Phantom. So what I did for her is I took some scrap, and this is something I encourage you to do anyways. If you're new to this, before you be wasting all your sweatshirts, find yourself, even just put it on, this one I got just on some cutaway stabilizer, and I practiced it out before I put it on a sweatshirt. Now that I got the hang of it and I kind of have an idea, like for instance, the bears and the dogs, I didn't test out before because I had started with this one, and I knew some of the letters. I had even like copied and pasted, like the S and the R are the same, the A is the same from, I kind of copied, I shared from this. And I'll show you how I'm doing these on the computer in a minute. So anyways, I encourage you to practice them out beforehand. So I practiced this one out. I did put it on a scrap piece of shirt just so that it would look better, because I knew I was going to be sending a picture to a client. So it's okay. I think I was actually very pleased with it, considering it is 7 letters long, not 6. And I even gave them all a haircut. I went in and I trimmed them down to try to make them thinned out a little bit to make it more legible. And I mean, they are. The O is just kind of getting disappeared in there. It's pretty squished. I think this is like the best I could do with 7 letters. And obviously anything beyond this is just not gonna, in my opinion, it's just not gonna be possible with this thickness of yarn. Also, the other thing I've been telling my customers is currently I am not doing anything smaller than a medium sweatshirt, because even a medium sweatshirt with these large hoops is super tight and kind of tricky to work with. So at this time, I'm not doing smalls. And you know, I don't really get that many requests for small sizes. Usually it's a medium or large or an extra large. And when, you know, I've gotten a few requests for smalls and I've had to tell them, I can't do it. One was perfectly fine with medium. This was another one. She wanted it on a small and it's already like, we're pushing it. But you know what? I was willing to do it. So I sent her this picture and I said, this is what it's going to look like. It would have to be on a purple sweatshirt. And she said, she saw the picture and she said, you know what? Actually, would you mind it if we switched it and we did the one like the one I did for her before with the side bows and the glitter font? And then she also wanted his number added on the back. So all together, for my prices, and you can charge how you like, we went from, currently I'm charging $45 for these sweatshirts. I do them on a Gildan sweatshirt, so it's not an expensive sweatshirt. And yes, I kind of have to stand over my machine. Yes, we have to slow the machine down. So like there's some work that goes into it. But now that I got the hang of it and it's kind of flowing easier, I feel comfortable. Personally, I feel comfortable at $45 a sweatshirt for these. So we went from a $45 sweatshirt to a $75 sweatshirt. So I don't really feel bad that I stitched this all out. All right, I gotta go let my dog in before my UPS truck driver comes down to deliver some of the blanks that I got coming. She's in the backyard now, but it's only a matter of time. She's a Chihuahua, so you know she's gonna chase that truck. So let me let her inside, and then I will jump onto the computer, and I'm gonna show you how I use Embrilliance Stitch Artist 1 to create my own fonts. Right now I'm creating my own. I will show you the font that I did purchase. And we'll just talk a little bit about the fonts and how I'm doing it. For the way I'm doing it, you're gonna need Stitch Artist 1. But you can do this in Essentials if you purchase a font, and I'll show you how I would do that too. All right, let's go get into the computer. All right, so I have Embrilliance opened, and I've kind of picked the font that I like to copy, because what I'm actually going to do is copy this satin font and make it like an applique font. So I will explain all of that in a minute. This is the one, Haley 3 inches. This is kind of the one that I'm using. I think this Helmerhan, I don't know, whatever this one is. I think this one is very similar as well, but that's a bean stitch, which is still not really going to work for this style of sweatshirt. I do have, where is it? I do have this yarn script applique font. So the word we're going to do today is herons. 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 Okay, so there it is. This actually, now that I have, now that I'm using the wider hoops, this would actually, I kind of like it right there, but then that's going to be really close to that E. Anyways, this would probably work. I personally am just not crazy about how bouncy the font is, if that makes any sense at all. But we're going to keep this one right up here for a reference. Okay, and then we're going to go back to that other font that I like to copy. So, okay, so we're going to go back up. It really doesn't, I don't think it matters. Okay, so, oops, way too small. So the S is different. Here, let's see. So I'm kind of borrowing from a few different fonts. So here we have two fonts that are very similar, except our S's are different. Our S is very different over here. I did have one customer in the very beginning. I did use this font first, and she was like, that doesn't even look like an S. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. That's the font I have. And at the time, I didn't know, I didn't even think to try to make my own. So, I was like, I can't, most of the ones I was seeing are having this extra curly S. And I was like, well, and honestly, I'd already made her sweatshirts. I was like, well, that's what it is. And she was fine with it. But she didn't think that looked like an S. And I can understand that. But again, this one is kind of like that too. A lot of these script fonts, we're mixing like cursive letters with traditional letters. So I just think it's a style and it's a preference. So we're gonna mix a couple of different designs and styles here. Let's see. E, R, O, and S, I believe, are all in gators. So we're gonna borrow from this too. Okay, so I know I have a lot open here. So this is the size, this gators here, this is the size that it's gonna be, and we're gonna borrow from some of these letters as well. But I am gonna make them like new. I'm gonna tuck it over here for now. I'm gonna go ahead and keep the bean stitch. I'm gonna keep the bean stitch. So a couple of things that I've changed and I tweaked to be my own is, you see the O, I make it curly, kind of more like this, but not so big of a curl, okay? And then the S, I've kind of done this S, and I'm liking it on all of the sweatshirts it's just kind of working for me. So that's what we're sticking with. Okay. So we can go, does this one have a bigger one? All right, we can go a little bigger here. And it doesn't matter that we're stretching it because we're going to make our own. All right. And I also kind of tweak it up a little bit, but we can adjust all of that after. So we're going to connect some of these letters a little bit here. Okay. This one I may even keep a little. Okay. So that one's just for reference, and this one's just for reference. We're going to be copying this one and making this one work for our thing today. Now, really quick, before I get into this, if you don't have Stitch Artist, let me copy and paste this one and open it in a new screen. If you do not have Stitch Artist 1, you can skip ahead and you can, I'll just show you how I would do this. This font will work, okay? This size, it will work. I would probably move this over, maybe up a bit, so kind of like I can kind of connect the yarn there, and then move those over a bit. Okay, so a font like this would probably work just fine. Let's see how many colors we have here. Colors. We have one color. It's one color, one run. So what you want with this is you want to have an outline stitch before it does your zigzag stitch. And some of the fonts for yarn you're going to find are not going to have a zigzag stitch. I think that's a preference. I like the zigzag stitch because I feel like it secures the yarn down better and it catches that that braided part or that rope part in the middle that you want to catch. It ensures that I get that. I like how it kind of helps flatten some of that plush out. I just personally like the zigzag. But again, that's a preference. You can find another Chenille yarn font that is just like a single run stitch, and those work fine too. What I would do is I would copy and paste this here. So I've got two. You look over here on the side, I've got two. And then I would just change, the color of one, and then I would go in and I would change the color on just one. So like, see this one on the bottom, on the first one, that's going to be all one color. So I'm going to let that one stitch out first on the sweatshirt before I even take the yarn out. Then I'm going to put stops in. So I'm going to change the colors of each letter so that, and it doesn't matter what color they are because you're just going to do it all in one color on your machine, but you want to be able to put, did I just make those the same color? I sure did. You want to be able to put them in with stops. So if you make them all a different color, your machine is going to recognize them as different steps, and it's going to allow you to put a stop in after each letter. Now, if you know a different shortcut, by all means, but this is how I do it. Okay, so now I've got every single, I'll go ahead and change this last one too, but nope, I did that again. Okay. Okay, so now on this second run, every single letter is a different color, so I will be able to put my stops in. So if I didn't have Stitch Artist 1, this is what I would do. I would find a font that would just work, and I would, if it doesn't already have a placement stitch and then a yarn stitch or material stitch or however you want to say it, if it doesn't already have those two layers of stitching, I would just go ahead and put in, I would copy and paste it, one right on top of the other, one in one color, so I would let my machine stitch it all out, and then the other one I would do so that I can put a stop after each letter. And then even with this, you may, you're going to slow your machine down and you may go with your yarn all the way down to here, and then you may manually want to stop your machine to reposition your yarn and pull it back up here. and so on and so forth. So you may have to still stop, but knowing that my machine is going to stop after each letter just allows me to have more confidence, I guess, in stitching this out. So if you do not have Stitch Artist 1 and you only have Essentials, this is how I would do it, and you can just go ahead and skip to the next chapter where I'm hooping the shirt, and you can skip over all of the Stitch Artist 1 that I'm going to explain. But if you do have Stitch Artist 1, or you're looking to get Stitch Artist 1 specifically for this, you know, I would suggest it if you've been embroidering for a while and you just want a little bit more freedom to do some things. I like having Stitch Artist 1. Okay, so Stitch Artist 1 is going to give you this create design icon up here. Okay, this is like the normal, this arrow here, this is the normal where we go to like move our designs around and type in our fonts and all of that. But then if you have Stitch Artist 1, you'll get this other icon here, create design. So I'm going to click on that. Now this opens up all these other tabs. So we're going to draw with points. This is like my favorite thing. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to, why is it not letting me? Hello. Okay, there we go. We are just going to draw with points. So that first part of this letter is just that line. We're going to do a point at the top, a point at the bottom. We're going to hit enter on our keyboard. That creates that as its own little entity. I'm going to zoom in a bit here. I only really need to be looking at one letter at a time. Okay. Oh, see, I did have another. We'll delete that one. Okay. So this is the one we're working with. I'm going to click on the top and I can drag it where I want it. It gives me these nodules that allows me to move it how I want. So I'm just going to curve it a tiny bit. Honestly, with the yarn, it's really not going to matter that much. Okay, so that's the first line. Then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do it as a digitize and applique. So I'm going to make this, right now it's just a line. It has no stitches assigned to it. We're going to go up here. I can make it a satin stitch. You know, you can do fill stitches. There's all these different stitches, but we're going to do it as an applique stitch. Now, right now, it's put it in as an E stitch. Now, if you come over here to the side of your screen, you're going to have this pull down, and it's going to have all kinds of different options. You can do an applique satin stitch, a blanket satin stitch, but we want the zigzag, okay? And that's a very dense zigzag. So we can change that too. We're going to change the density to not very dense at all, like the least amount that I can get, 35. And the width, you can go as small or as wide as you like. I'm using chunky yarn, so I'm going to go pretty wide because, like I said, I just personally, it's a preference. I just like it. Okay. So that's the first one. Now I've already preset those sliders right here. These are going to stay the same as I continue. So I don't have to keep coming over here and changing that. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do the next letter. Honestly, I could just do 2 points, hit enter, and then because it gives you these nodules, I'm going to be able to move this exactly where I need it to be. So, and if you don't like this H, say you're kind of copying this font, but you want to tweak and change something and you don't like exactly how it curves, you can make it curve less or curve more, you know. It's completely up to you when you are designing your own. So then I went ahead and gave it that assigned it the stitching for the applique. And also, because I'm making these applique, when I come over here and I click on these and I go over to color, you'll see it automatically has its position and then it's zigzag. So it's automatically going to do a single line run, and then it's going to give you your zigzag. And at the end, I will make all of my zigzag stitching different colors so that I can put in those stops just like I did before, but I don't have to worry that that position stitch is going to stay the same. I will do a color sort after I've done that so that it will stitch out all of the letters together first instead of doing one letter at a time. Because if I didn't change it, it would each part would literally stitch out separately. So it would do the line for this and then the zigzag, and then it would come do the line for that one and then the zigzag. But if I do a color sort, it's gonna make it so it does all the lines together and then come in and do the zigzags by color as I assign them. I hope that this is making sense to you. It might be a little confusing if you're new to it. I'm gonna give this 3 nodules just because that is a big dip, but it probably don't even need, honestly, probably if you double click, you can get rid of one. I'm thinking I don't need that many because we can just pull that one way down, this one way down, and there you go. Enter, give it its stitching. Okay, so there's our H. Our H is done. Now we're gonna move over to the E. I think that this E, the way it is, will be fine. I might, not sure. Now I know, see, that don't look like an E at all, does it? But we're gonna fix that in a minute. I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to focus on this. Okay. Let's see. I guess it's okay. You know what I might do is change this one, pull this one down a bit, and pull this nodule up a bit. Just because personally I like it when it looks like if someone was writing this and they did this H, they just went right up into their E, you know? I just like to be like that. Okay, same thing over here. We're going to straighten this one out. Okay. And then we're going to give it its stitching. Now you can go right now and change the color if you want to, or you could do it later. Let's just give it a totally different shade of color. Okay, but then the next one's going to stitch out in this green too. It's just kind of how it does. All right, let me speed through a little bit of this. I'll talk to you about this O in a minute. Actually, let's talk about the R. Let's talk about the R. So let's zoom out for a minute. Let's go back into this arrow so I can move this up. Okay, here's this R. I know it looks funky, but it's just kind of what I've started doing. Let's move this one down here. Okay, and it's very big. I know it's kind of funky, and this one has like that curl, but here's the thing. I like that this one is more open. It still ends up looking very much like an R, in my opinion. But without doing that curl, it's giving the yarn, more freedom, I guess. I don't know how to say it. This just, it's a very tight curl for such a thick yarn, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's kind of why I made that change personally. And again, this is why you definitely want to test these out. Let me come up here. I'm going to trace this one. You definitely want to practice these out, because I had to, like, I didn't know how this was going to work with the yarn. I had to test it out to be able to know, you know. It's stitching. I'm going to come back over here to this arrow so that I can move it. And now I'm just going to move it right into place. That's kind of how I borrow. Okay, and it is very large, which also makes me know, like, that is the size that I want it to be. So that makes me think, yep, we need to make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Okay. Well, we can adjust this. We can adjust this after as well. And because we're still in that create mode, like this has not been saved yet, to resize these is not gonna, it's not gonna mess up any of their stitching, if that makes sense. So we're going to go back into over here, back into our design mode, and I'm just going to tweak this so that it works better for this particular font and letter. I know it just looks like a funky R, but I promise when it stitches out, it does look okay. All right. Sometimes they just don't want to move for me. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit tighter of an R than this one was up here on the gaiters. And I'm just kind of looking over at my sweatshirts on the wall, and I think I've got the room to be able to do that. I might just pull this one this way a little bit. Okay. I think that'll work just fine. Okay, now the O, same thing. Let's copy this O. Oh, I was already in the right thing. Okay, so let's copy this O up here. What I enjoy about being able to create my own designs for these is each word I can tailor it to fit and just work better for each word, you know? Sometimes when you're stuck with a single font, you might not like how it connects, how the letters all connect, but this gives you a little bit more freedom to connect them however you see fit. Okay. We're going to make this up here, we're going to make this a cusp. So a cusp allows, if you've seen like every time I move one side of some of these nodules, it's moving both sides, right? Because that's they're automatically set up to be a curve. If you change it to a cusp, you see up here, it put that little slash in that circle, a little line in that circle, and that allows me to move each side without it affecting the other side. Okay, so because this is such a pointy point, I want it to be a cusp. So that is that. Now I'm just kind of looking over here. Do I like this in? Do I like any of these letters better? Feed through, but I might adjust some of these letters. I'm going to delete this one behind here, and I might adjust some of these letters. All right. So here we are. I'm okay with all these letters. I'm liking them. The only thing is this one is a little bit wider than I like to keep it. So if you go over here to the gaiters and I click on that, you're seeing it's 14 and 9/16 of an inch. The herons, if I select all of that, is 16 by 5/15 or 5/16. That's almost 2 inches wider. I don't understand how I got so much. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So it's like almost a whole letter wider. For the hoops we're using today, it will be okay. Now, if I wanted to get that mighty hoop that is 16 inches wide, this one would not work. I would have to make it smaller, which is why I'm trying to keep them under 15, which I know this is pretty much 15. But if the hoop is 16, I'm thinking this will fit. And if I do get the mighty hoop and I have to pull this in a tad like that, I will. I'll make it work. This one I'm thinking I might leave as big as it is. Maybe I'll shrink it a tiny bit. 15.5. I think it's like that little swoosh. That is what it is. It's that swoosh on the H. It's making it a little bit too wide. And if that's the case, you know, I could just make that swoosh smaller, but you know, I know it's gonna fit in these hoops I'm using today. We're just gonna go ahead and keep that. The other thing is, you see how I have it kind of cocked up a little bit. It's a little crooked. I do that on purpose because, again, that allows me to keep some of that lettering bigger and still fit it in that smaller area. So let's see, 7/16. Actually, I think in that case, it made it bigger. So we're going to keep it right there. I think. I don't know. Fractions confuse me sometimes with when you're measuring. Anyways. Okay, so I think this looks good. Let's change all of these to a different color. All the letters. Like I said, so that it'll stitch out different. I'm just going over here, clicking on it, and taking the second color in it and changing it to a random color. It really does not matter. Just make it random. Make it different. Make each one different. Okay. Is it centered? Okay, we centered it. I have it, so the first, if you look over here, the first position is going to be that cream color, and then every zigzag is going to be a different color. Now what I like to do is come up here and do a color sort, and I'm going to open it in a new view. Now we pull this drag down, and you see it does still put it in as separate separate. So sometimes my machine, because what I do is I don't try to, sometimes I can count and see how many letters down and then put a stop after the 8th one and then put a stop after each one of these. Sometimes I just put a stop in all of them and I just keep hitting next until I get to the zigzag stage. Either way, I know that the first thing it's going to do is this single stitch. So let's go to the simulator, and I'm just going to drag this so it goes kind of quick. So here we go. So it's going to stitch out. I'm going to let it stitch out whether I put, ooh, come on, drag, whether I put stops in or wherever I put the stops, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get it to this point. Okay. I'm going to let it stitch all that out on the sweatshirt, and then I'm going to stop it and get my yarn, and we're going to do all this. So let me show you how I'm going to hoop these sweatshirts with that extra large hoop that came with your machine, and then I'll show you where I put my stops and how we're going to stitch out this sweatshirt today. Okay, so I did go ahead and tweak it a little bit. Let me find the end of my tape. That's not a straight piece of tape, but that's okay. All right, so this is the original that we worked on the computer. I did go ahead and just stretched it. So you can see like the A is a little bit taller, the E, the R. This was just compared to my other ones that I was doing. It just looked too small to me. So, and I'm trying to keep my style consistent so that if somebody wants, you know, in a different word on a sweatshirt, it's not like they're not going to know what to expect. All right. Okay, so this one is ready. Let me get the sweatshirt. We're doing a navy sweatshirt with the old gold yarn. Let me grab the one I'm using today. Okay, so Hobby Lobby has these two options for the yellow. And if you watched the one I did, trying to do the Colts and the Wacona sweatshirt, the last two videos, sorry, I'm just pulling off all the fuzz. I was using this, which is a more yellow. My goodness. This, for the gators and the herons, they are a Vegas gold or an old gold. So I thought that the mustard color from Hobby Lobby would kind of go with that vibe a little bit more than the bright yellow. So it's definitely a more muted tone, this gold. So I thought this mustard is going to be perfect for that. So if you're looking for an old gold or Vegas gold, I would suggest looking at the mustard color from Hobby Lobby. So this is the one I'm using today. What size? I mean, it's jumbo. Eternal Bliss. It's suggesting that you use a 25 millimeter knitting needles, 25 millimeter crochet hook. So, and it's let's see, it's 8 ounces. I think that's just how much is here. So anyway, so this is the one I'm using, the thickest one, the biggest one that I can find from Hobby Lobby. So to get the sweatshirt ready, we're going to do it a little bit different than we would traditionally do with like a mighty hoop. And I did have a comment on my last video. Someone was thankful for all of my measurements, but was bothered that influencers like me only focus on multi-needle machines and mighty hoops and all these expensive things that not everybody has. And I'm like, oh, I am so offended, because if you've watched my videos, you know that I do not take owning mighty hoops or the Hoopmaster lightly at all. I know that that is a huge, huge investment, but it is one that I do believe is worth making if you can afford it. And it took me over 2 years before I got to that point. And if you watch some of my older videos, original videos, you'll see me using these green hoops, the square green hoops. I did 62 some odd sweatshirts with using the original hoops that came with the machine. So I'm no stranger to using older equipment or the equipment that comes with your machines. But I was just like, oh, before you start judging, maybe you should watch a few more of my videos. I was just so offended. But anyways, I digress. All of that to say, we are going to do this a little bit, not a ton different, but a little bit different than we would with a mighty hoop. So the way I like to hoop my sweatshirts is I always fold them in half this way, and I iron to find this line. Well, let me just go ahead and do this on my table because I don't want to move the camera. So I am just going to iron down this middle seam so that I have a nice middle line to go off of. Okay, that's going to help. This is going to help us hoop it. It's going to help us line everything up. All right, let me grab the stabilizer. All right, today I'm going to be using I think it's medium weight cutaway stabilizer. I do get this one from Amazon, and the link will be in my description below, but I like this one because it's a 15-inch wide roll, which works very well for a lot of the mighty hoops that I have. I'm gonna go ahead and use the green hoop today. I am going to be using my mirror machine, but why I'm using the green one today is because I already have it marked. You can see I have the lines drawn on here for my center of this hoop, which is going to help me hoop this sweatshirt. If you don't already have them, like on this hoop, I have not done those yet. Okay. So I suggest you find your center lines. I usually go by these 2 screws here, and I have some tape in there, and I drew some lines. And then on this one, I'm not sure if they have them on this one. Yes. So if you look at the back side of the hoop, you can barely see that it has this like kind of like a dot. Okay. I don't know if you can even see that on camera, but that's on the back side of the hoop. And I think what I did with this, it looks like this one is actually hooped upside down, which is fine. So when I do that, it is giving me that, I hope you can see that. The slight little, you can see there's a circle right there. That would be the middle of this hoop up and down. So then, but that is going to be on the inside of the shirt. You're not going to see that. So what I did on this one is I put some tape, because it does work better with the tape, on my hoop. And then you can use your ruler to really get it straight, but I went ahead and drew, actually, this is probably fine. We can just use this hoop since I'm doing this and showing you, okay? All right. So I got my tape there, and so I can see that circle, and I'm just gonna give myself a straight line, okay? Let's go ahead and use this one then, since I went ahead and did that. All right, so that's gonna help us hoop, find our center and hoop. Let's get this out of the way for a minute. All right, don't need this tape. I don't need this ruler right now. I might need it in a minute, you never know. Okay, I'm going to flip my sweatshirt inside out. You don't have to worry about the sleeves so much. Just pull it from the shoulders, flip it inside out. This and this again, you could just slip your stabilizer up inside and then slip your hoop inside and just go ahead and hoop it that way. That works fine. This is just the technique that I have come to use and to like when I was primarily just using these standard hoops before I had mighty hoops. Like, I just, listen, I'm no stranger to not having mighty hoops. I understand the struggle. And I got very, very, very efficient with using these standard hoops. But if you can afford mighty hoops, do it, because they're worth it. Okay, so this is the technique I like to use using the standard hoops. I flip my sweatshirts inside out. I have my stabilizer cut to size, and then I spray some basing spray on the stabilizer, not on the sweatshirt. Now, yes, it's here and there might get some overspray, but it'll be all right. Okay, I put it on the stabilizer. I know I've seen some complaints that this leaves residue on the garments. I don't have too much trouble with that as long as I'm not spraying it directly onto the garment. Spray it on your stabilizer. Okay, and then I put my stabilizer on and smooth it out. I personally like to do this because it keeps the stabilizer from shifting around as I'm positioning my hoop inside and making sure that it's staying where it needs to be. Not much different than when you're putting your stabilizer on your hoop master and clipping it in with the clips. The clips are holding your stabilizer in place. This is my way of holding my stabilizer in place as I'm positioning. I hope that that makes sense. So now we're gonna flip it back. I grab the shoulders and I just shake it out. So, okay, and then we're gonna smooth it out, and I just lost my paper that I'm gonna have to go get. Okay, see there's a little crease right there, it's fine. You just lift it and smooth it. All right, smooth it all out, and I still can see my line that I made with my iron. And this is a medium sweatshirt, so this is going to be a very tight hooping as far as getting it in here in the width. And then also I hoop them so that they go on the machine from the bottom, because with such a large hoop, you don't want to go in through the neck, because it is gonna rip your hoop off, and you're gonna run into so many problems. So I always make sure that my machine is gonna come in from the bottom, so it's gonna have all this room to move around in here. But even with that, this is going to be so tightly hooped in there that the arm is going to have a little bit of trouble moving in here. And what I noticed with some of my, like for instance, when I was stitching out the gaiters on a medium sweatshirt, I had to stick my arm in through the neck and make sure that the back of the shirt was not getting caught on that hoop, because what was happening is it was causing some of this stitching not to stitch out the smoothest. Let me see. This one is a medium. Let me show you what I mean. So if you look right here, look at that. Some of it was because it was snagging, it was just causing my machine to get a little bit snagged, and then it wasn't stitching as smoothly as it should. I did end up going back over it and fixing it, and you can't tell from the front. Everything is secure on there. It's fine, but just be aware. You want to make sure your shirt is not getting caught. It's only been a problem with the mediums when I'm doing this because, again, it's a tight fit. Okay, so we're not doing gaiters, and I think the printout that I'm using today fell on the floor, so I will grab that in a minute. Let's get this hooped up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the screw quite a bit, okay? I like to put my screw on the bottom here so that I can adjust it and tighten it. That's just my iron pulling down over there. Okay, so I'm going to go up this way, and then while it's in there, I'm going to turn it this way because, again, it's a bit of a tight squeeze. All right. And again, see, if I hadn't sprayed the stabilizer in there, I would just be fighting with the stabilizer too. So, but I am still going to slip my hands up in here and make sure that that stabilizer is flattened out around this hoop. Okay. Now, because I have this hoop in here upside down, I still can see that little dot, so I'm going to just kind of, it's okay, like the stabilizer doesn't cover fully from top to bottom on here anyways, even with the 15-inch, so it's okay if there's a little bit of a gap on the stabilizer. Okay. Okay, so smoothing it out, I'm just kind of eyeballing this, making sure, and I can lift this and I can see my crease on both sides of the sweatshirt, so that can kind of give me an idea, am I in the right ballpark here? You know? Okay, so there, I'm trying to line these dots up with that line, okay? And you know what though, because we are putting the design on these sweatshirts crooked, you know, it gives us a lot of leeway here. So make sure your notch is pointing down, because remember, we want to go in through the bottom of the machine. Okay, so all right, there's my line. I'm kind of looking to see if we're in the right ballpark. Same thing on the bottom, and then we just kind of, I just go around, keeping in mind that the opening or the screw is on this corner, so I'm probably going to push that corner last. Okay, we're struggling a little bit here, and what that's telling me is this is too tight. So again, that's why I like my screw on this side, because I know I can reach my hand up in here and unscrew it some more to widen it more. It does, because the sweatshirt is thick, you do kind of have to widen it. You can already see I have some hoop burn right there. That line, that's something that happens with their traditional hoops sometimes, and that's, you know what, I just hit it with some steam and iron, and that does come right out. Okay, this is gonna hoop much better. All right, let me make sure we're okay. And I'm kind of putting my weight on this side as I make sure I pop it in on that side. Come on. Okay. Pin. Okay. It is not, you know, this is how I did it for a long time. So, and with a wider hoop, with the smaller hoops, the smaller standard hoops, it does, it's not as hard to push it all on and everything. Okay. So that is hooped. Now, I like to just go ahead and hoop it, pull these up, you know, squeeze them tight, and then I tighten my screw. When you go to slip these onto the machine though, you are going to have to push the bottom hoop down a bit to be able to slip that mechanism, the arms in here. I hate that. Like, I wish I could just keep it this tight, but, and I always feel like it's gonna come off on the machine. But anyways, all right, so now that it's hooped, I come in here. Let's do it this way so you can see. I come in here to the screw and I just screw until I can't screw anymore. I wouldn't be able to hoop it this tight, but after it's hooped, I can come in and tighten it. And I literally tighten it as tight as it'll let me go. Okay? And so now I feel like that is a good, tight, secure hold on the sweatshirt. Now it's ready to go on the machine. So let's go pop it on the machine and stitch out this. We're going to use the mustard colored yarn, and I'll show you how we're going to make that work. All right, so here we are. I'm holding the bottom of the shirt up a little bit so that I know it's not going to get snagged in there, and we're going to slip this under these needles onto the machine. And then here's where I was saying you're going to have to push. Can you see? This is where I'm saying you're gonna have to kind of like tuck the sweatshirt out of the way, and then you may have to push the bottom of that hoop down a tiny bit. I'm even helping this out because I want it to stay tight. I'm lifting these little bits here to try to help get it on, and then you push it on until it clicks into space. Now, I do have my arms out to the widest position, and yep, we're all ready. Look at this. This could be, this could be bad. Let me pull you off and show you. Okay, so I was focused on getting these into place, and then look here. Look here. If I hadn't, you got to feel in here because that totally would stitch through your sweatshirt. I'm sorry if you can't see it. I'm trying to show you. Okay, I'm holding the camera so I won't show you doing the trace. But before I hit that trace button, I'm coming down here with this hand and I'm just pulling the sweatshirt down. Because, like I said, we're doing a medium today and it is a tight fit. Let's just see what it does with the trace. It's moving okay in there. It does tend to snag sometimes, but so like it does work. See, you kind of saw it pucker there. It does work. I just try to be mindful that this is not going to get caught and snag, okay? All right, let's see how far we are. Pretty far. Okay. This is good though. That means it's going to be lower, which is actually going to be better. Okay. I did a trim there. That's pretty much. Okay, that's right there. That's where we want it to be. All right, we're going to do our trace one more time, and then I think we'll be ready to go. Ooh, what did that just do? Okay, you know what that just did? Popped it out over here, and I bet it's because it's snagged under there. I'm going to put this back, my phone back on the camera so that I can actually see what's going on here. The other thing is this is not fully clicked in, so I'm going to adjust my arm over here. To make sure it's in there. I'm almost wondering too, if I hooped it too low, it fits. I thought it would be better lower. Let me put my watch off. I thought it would be better lower, that it would give us more room in there, but okay, we're still lined up. All right. Let me see here what is happening. Okay, so between this bottom of the machine and that, just when it's doing that trace, it's just the sweatshirt is getting stuck. So again, we're going to be moving at 300. Our speed is going to be down to 300. And we're just going to watch. The other thing I could do is an outline trace, and that might tell me better. Of course, it's going to go super slow. That may tell me better if it's gonna snag or not. But I think it's just because we're tight in here. It's just tight. It does work, and it doesn't take this long. It just because I'm like explaining it all and trying to go slow and explain every single step. It just seems like it's a process. But once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad. All right. So it is, see, we're not having any, I'm looking underneath. We're not having any issues of it snagging. Let's see what happens when it goes up. Okay, yeah, it does a little. All right, so what I need to do is just be mindful when I get over to that S that I reach underneath and pull the sweatshirt down slightly so that it doesn't snag. But that's what's happening, is because it's so tight under here, it is causing a little bit of it to catch and snag on the bottom. That's all. That is not going to be a problem. We'll get it done. All right, we're going to do the outline stitch first anyways. I'm going to leave it at the speed it is. Let's see, ready. Okay, it actually is at 300. It must have been the last one I did was one of these. So I'm going to go up to like, we'll go to 700 for now. That's fine. This is just to do that outline stitch. When we get to the zigzag stitch part, we are going to slow it down to 300. Okay? Okay, and I am, at this point, I am just kind of pulling down a little bit on the sweatshirt on the bottom to make sure it's not going to snag. So I know this is that problem area right over here by this S. Once it gets started, it's okay. It's just that initial when the machine does its big move, you know. Okay, we're ready to do yarn. So we're going to slow the machine way down to 300. Okay, it's slowed down to 300. I have my scissors ready. I've got my yarn ready. I have not pre-cut it. If you watched my other Chenille videos, I do kind of like cut it to size first. I've kind of stopped doing that. I also am not using glue or chopsticks anymore. I'm just more confident and comfortable. But if you're more comfortable using a chopstick, you want to like tape this down, cut it, you know, use chopsticks to maneuver it, that's fine. Please do what you are most comfortable with. I have gotten to the position where I'm comfortable doing it this way. Whoop. Okay, this is a new design, so I didn't know which way we were going first. Okay, so I am going to go a little bit past that. I'm going to reach behind with my finger just until it catches it. Okay, all right, now it's in there good, see? So I can just kind of hold it nice and tight and let it do its thing. And again, I had to reach behind underneath and pull that sweatshirt. I don't know if you can see that, probably not on camera, but I reached under with my left hand and just made sure that sweatshirt was pulled out of the way. So like the whole time I'm stitching this medium-sized sweatshirt, that's what I'm gonna be doing. The extra large, okay, stop. Okay, so my machine recognized this line and this line as one color, because remember the whole H is one color, which is fine. I'm going to trim this. I went ahead and stopped my machine manually, trim this, and then position it. Again, I'm coming a little bit longer than the yarn. Okay, I'm going a little, see where it is? I'm going a little bit longer than that so that I have something to hold on to and my fingers aren't going to be underneath there, okay? I am not putting my hands anywhere near the needle. I'm holding it out and guiding the yarn as it goes, and I'm using the line underneath as my guide, but I'm not putting my hands near that needle. And because I know it's going to go back over with that wide zigzag stitch, I'm comfortable that it's going to catch, okay? You could just tape this down if you didn't feel comfortable putting your finger here. See, once it's caught in there, I can let go with this hand. I can give it a little tug underneath, make sure my sweatshirt's out of the way. And I can literally let go at this point. It's just doing a zigzag and going back. Now I bet it's gonna go right back up here and I'm gonna have to stop the machine. Because again, it's all one color. Let's see. Yeah, okay. The other thing you'll notice is with this applique stitching, it's starting backwards. So like when oops, didn't mean to kick that. When I started this line on my computer, I put my first point here and my last point here, but it's starting backwards with the last point. So that's something like, if you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, you'll know it's going to start at the other end. So you'll kind of be ready for where you want to put your yarn. Okay. So I'm positioning it again a little bit past that point, letting it go. And then just guiding it. I feel like at this point, I have literally tried all the techniques, and you'll see if you go back and watch my other videos. I've tried gluing it. I've tried different glues. I've tried using the chopsticks and all the things. But this, at first when I was watching different YouTubers and influencers do it, I'm like, how are they make it look so easy. Okay, see, now it stopped where it was supposed to stop, because the E is put in as like a separate color. And I'm just going in here and trimming this. And I was thinking, like, how are they making it look so easy? Well, here I'm doing it the way that I've seen them do it. And I'm not going to say I'm just trimming these a little bit. I'm not going to say that it's easy. Let me just, put my phone, my recording in real time for you for a minute and show you and kind of explain to you like how I'm doing it. I'm not, it does take practice. I will say that. Okay, here's the other thing that I like to do. I could totally start, let me turn my camera so you can see. Okay. I could totally start right here. You see where this E starts? That's where it's going to start. And I could start my yarn right there. I personally bring it right up to the top of that R. That I know I have lots of room to hold it, and it's not, my fingers aren't going to be near it. And then also when I come back here to do this R, I only have to go up to this point, and then I just let it stitch that. And so I kind of make this yarn a part of the R, and it just works. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could give yourself a lot of slack and just kind of have an idea of where it'd be. And then I could have enough and keep it continuous. But I don't mind cutting it bit by bit, but I do just kind of let it go to the top of that R. Okay, checking the bottom again. Can we see where the needle is? Okay, we're ready to start. We're gonna start this again. And you just gotta get used to. All right, I may stop this right there. Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there because what I haven't done yet, I'm still connected to the ball of yarn, and I know that that's gonna be tricky when I go around here. So I'm gonna come. Oops, I can't go around. All right, again, I told you it's not all glamorous like they're making it out to be. I just want to know how much yarn to cut. Okay, I am gonna cut a little extra because again, I don't want to get my fingers near there. There, now I'm disconnected from the ball. Now I can start it again. Oop. I missed it, did you see that? I missed it right here, but it's gonna catch it again as it does its zigzag, so it's okay. It is making that E a little bit more squished because I probably would have had it over further. I don't know. It'll be all right. That's kind of what I like about it, because even if I miss it a little bit, it'll go back over it with that zigzag, so I know it's going to be okay. See, I gave myself all this extra that we're going to trim off. It might be a little wasteful, and you don't have to give it so much extra if you don't want to. But honestly, the camera's kind of in my way too, so I couldn't really see. So, all right, so I trimmed it, and we're gonna get the next piece ready. All right, and again, same thing here. I need to decide, do I want to start it here, or do I want to bring it right up to that top of that O? Sometimes I have, sometimes I haven't. I think today I'm just going to start it right where that O. I'll trim it so that it'll be flush with that O. All right, I'm going to make sure I'm not getting caught underneath. I'm going to start the machine. I'm gonna stop it here for a second. Reposition myself. All right. Okay. Stop it again. Okay, now this is where I'm gonna tuck this one right up under that one. I'm gonna hold it here and start it. Hopefully you can see that. I'm gonna hold it here and start it. So I don't know if that makes sense, and you don't have to do that. You can keep it, each letter its own, but I just kind of, sometimes I let them go a little longer or trim them. However. I am just thinking, I didn't catch it. I don't know if you can see. I can feel the rope is right here, and I didn't catch it. Y'all? But I'm pulling, and I don't think it's gonna come off. But if I was worried that it might, what I would do is I would get my chopsticks at this point and probably push this over maybe and go back over that spot. I'm gonna leave it. I think it's gonna be all right. I really don't think it's gonna come out. The other thing I haven't done yet is wash any of these. Have you washed them? I heard someone said that hers, when she washed it, all the stuff came out. I don't know what brand of yarn she was using, but I have a feeling it wasn't this one, because I feel like this one is like I can't even pull it out. So I feel like this one is a nice braided yarn. It comes off at the ends when you trim it a little bit, but even then, it's not really, this one's not seeming to come apart. So I feel like it'll be okay in the wash, but let me know in the comments. Have you washed them? Have you had trouble with that? What brand of yarn are you using? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up. Just remember that I am going to be either putting my arm in here and checking, or pulling down on the sweatshirt on the bottom, make sure nothing's getting snagged. But I'll give you guys a little sped up version of what I'm doing. All right. All right, here it is. The only thing, so we got to clean it up a little bit. It does make a little bit of a mess. The only thing I'm not crazy about is this N and this O are a little bit smushed more than I would want them to be, but everything else looks good. I'm almost wondering maybe I could have gone a little bit smaller with the R, moved it over. I don't know. But you don't have to, but let me show you kind of what I do. I am going to come in and give it a little bit of a trim in some places where I'm just not crazy about it. Okay, and I don't see anybody else doing this, so, you know, this is definitely preference. This is a preference, okay? So, like, right here, this one I want to be careful I don't trim too much because I can actually feel the cord. It didn't catch it all the way down, okay? But I will trim it a tiny bit just to kind of flatten it out, but not cutting through that cord. That's it. I mean, it's supposed to be fluffy anyways, but see, that just to me looks better. And this is just maybe because I'm a perfectionist. I don't know. And it'll fluff out and it'll look, I think it'll look fine and look the same, but again, I'm not doing it to everything, just the like spots that are really crazy sticking out and don't look right to me. And if you didn't do the zigzag stitch, I don't know if it would look. So I'm just making a bigger mess, but and it's not, you don't want it to be too perfect because then it won't, this is kind of the look, right? All right, everything else looks good. The only other thing is, because I'm not crazy about, I am, you know, if I mess this up, we'll just get another sweatshirt. I did this with the Phantom one I told you. I tried to clean it up a bit. Sorry, I'm just trying to shake off some of this. All right. That didn't really do anything, did it? And give it a minute. It'll fluff back out. All right. All right, let me shake this really good and cut the stabilizer on the inside, and then I'll pull you up and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so that's it from start to finish. Today, start to finish with this sweatshirt and how I'm doing them now. But if you have been following along, then you have seen my start to finish with this entire journey of doing these Chenille. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I know it's not Chanel, it's Chenille, but I have a hard time. I think it's my accent. I don't know. Chenille sweatshirts. So if you are interested in getting started with this and you don't know where to start, I hope that I helped clear this up for you a little bit. I hope that I helped just normalize it a little bit. If you are struggling a little bit, it's okay. We've all been there. We've all struggled. So anyways, like I said, not super crazy about that O and that N and how squished they are, but everything else looks good. And honestly, between you and me, the whole design probably needed to be moved over to the right a smidgen. But I think when you're wearing it, I don't really think it's gonna be that noticeable. So anyways, that is it. I hope that you give this a try. Let me know in the comments below if you do anything differently, if you found out any other tips or tricks or anything else that makes this process go smoother, just let me know. And don't be afraid to try different things, because again, like if you've seen this start to finish, my entire journey with these this style sweatshirt I've done, this will be my 3rd video now on it. You'll see that I tried all kinds of things until I got what I feel comfortable with, and I really do feel comfortable with this. The only thing different that I would change would be moving forward, getting that mighty hoop, that bigger mighty hoop, which would be these ones are what? They're like 21-ish inches, like somewhere around there. 20-inch wide hoops, okay? The mighty hoop that I'm kind of thinking that would work for this is, I think, 16 inches wide. So that, when I'm trying to keep my designs in that, knowing that if in the future I need to, or I'm ready to invest in getting that mighty hoop for these, in particular, sweatshirts, that the same designs that I've been doing will still fit in that mighty hoop. But other than that, I don't really know of anything else that I would change or do differently. I'm currently still doing the cursive fonts. I have seen some styles that are doing more of a print font, so I mean, maybe I might give that a try if requested, but at this point it's a lot easier for me to just kind of keep all of them the same, so a customer can just say, can you do on a blue sweatshirt and have it say herons, and yes I can, and I don't need to necessarily, like with the Phantoms, come up with a mock-up for every single person and send them proofs and whatever. I just assure them it's gonna look like one of these in these colors, you know, as long as it's not over 6 letters, because that I don't know, that's another thing too, is I'm gonna try to keep them under 6 letters. Anything over that, for me, I just don't feel like it's gonna look very good. So unless I find a different yarn that is a little bit thinner, but like I said, I'm doing these. I've got some Christmas sweatshirts planned, some pink and blue ones that I'm gonna be doing bows on, just a simple bow, and that's gonna be Christmas presents from Aunt Joy this year for all of my nieces. Just, you know, and those bows look really good with this thick yarn. So those would be probably the only 2 things moving forward that I would probably look for to change, would be to try to find another Chenille yarn that's a little bit thinner, but not too thin. Like you saw that if you go back and watch that other video where I'm like, too thick or too thin, that's still truly the struggle. So I just kind of couldn't figure out what I wanted for that in-between size yarn. So I just opted, you know what, we're gonna make work. That's, if you know, I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make work what I've got. So I made the thick yarn work, because it just, that's what people want anyways. They want the thicker yarn. So I'm like, all right, let's figure out how to make this thick yarn work. So that's what I did. So moving forward, I look at the mighty hoops. Moving forward, I'm gonna keep my eye out for a different yarn, maybe that's a little bit thinner. But other than that, I feel very confident and comfortable with where I finally landed with this technique. So I'm looking forward to, I'm already getting a lot more orders for these. So Christmas season has finally picked up. If you've been following my journey, you know that I kind of was like, okay, November, where's all my Christmas orders? What's happening? Why is it so slow? And it's not slow anymore. And I kind of was going into the season being like, well, it's slow. I'm going to plan all these personal Christmas presents from Aunt Joy that I'm gonna make all these sweatshirts for everybody, and then business picked up and I'm like, oh no. So I have got to get busy with the rest of my week. The kids were off on vacation last week for Thanksgiving, so that blew out like a whole bunch of my work time. So with that, I'm going to end this video and get to work. I wish you well in your embroidery journey. Please let me know if you have any questions. I try my best to answer them. I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing my journey with you. So please, I love talking with y'all. So Share in the comments if you tried this, what you think. Did you learn something from this video? Has my journey been helping you? I love that encouragement. I love to know that I'm actually doing something here and I'm not wasting my time. I'm actually helping you. So please let me know what you think. I love to read your comments, and I wish you all the best in your embroidery journey. I will see you in the next video.